More breaking news right now. We have just learned initial court appearances for the so-called fake electors are scheduled for May 21st, according to the attorney for 8 of the 11 electors. We first broke news of the charges yesterday on 12 News at 4. An Arizona grand jury indicted 18 people for their roles in an attempt to overturn former President Donald Trump's loss to Joe Biden in the 2020 election. In this indictment, 11 Republicans were named, including Kelly Ward, who was the Arizona Republican Party chair, her husband, 2 lawmakers, and a former Senate candidate. They are each charged with 9 counts of conspiracy, fraud, and forgery. 7 other people were indicted, all of them connected to the Trump campaign. They included his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and lawyer Rudy Giuliani. Trump is an unindicted co-conspirator. Let's take a legal deep dive into the case right now. Joining me is criminal defense attorney Hector Diaz of Diaz Law. All right, Hector, explain first the core allegation of this indictment.
Very similar to what we've seen in other states, Georgia, Michigan, alleging essentially a criminal conspiracy by high-ranking Republican members to overturn the 2020 election.
Go ahead.
Yeah, very similar. Again, we have the assertion or the allegation that you had fake electors that, knowing that Trump lost the election, but essentially that they put together a scheme. That's a word that you see a lot in the indictment, that this was a fraud scheme by these electors. And they went in and they said, you know what, we've got to slow this down a little bit. This is moving quickly. Pence, who had the responsibility of signing off and certifying that Biden and Harris had won the election, we've got to get him to pause.
Right.
And so the allegation is that they then submitted to Congress a letter that they all signed acknowledging that, in fact, the 11 Trump electors are certifying the election for Trump.
Okay, so that's the 11. However, what was interesting was that Trump, as we said, is an unindicted co-conspirator along with 4 other people. Why are they named in this indictment? Because we all saw the descriptions of what they did.
Right. It is interesting. This is different than in Georgia, for instance, where he is indicted. I think here, the Attorney General, I think this is strategic. I think that, one, they recognize that Trump is dealing with these issues in other states, and let those other states deal with it. And here we're going to essentially wait and see what happens also with the immunity issue that's being played out before the Supreme Court. But not to say that they can't bring him in later.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
And so what you could see here is that the AG starts to have conversations with some of the lower level individuals here to see if they might flip, meaning will they turn state's evidence and now serve as a witness for the government against Trump.
Okay. So when it comes to fraud cases, my understanding is that the prosecutor has to prove intent. So let's just say, what if these folks sincerely believed that they were doing the right thing, that they were told that they were signing a document that was legal? Would you use that as a defense? You're
definitely going to look at it. That's, I think, one of the first areas that a lawyer, criminal defense lawyer for these individuals is going to dive into and say, tell me what was the understanding? What was the logic? They're going to look at emails, text messages to be able to establish what was the rationale, what was going on. Some of these individuals are going to say, we legitimately believed that there was a challenge to the election. We were hearing that there was fraud happening here in Arizona, and we believed that the only way to contest this is by the actions that we took, which go to their intent. And so it's going to be interesting. No doubt the prosecutor in this case, now we've learned there's been a grand jury investigation for quite some time. They've been looking at this. They're also anticipating that these issues may come up, and they're trying to figure out how can we undercut those arguments.
Real quick, do you think they could face jail time?
Again, unlikely. The offenses are very serious. They are very serious. These are Class 2 felonies. The court has the inherent authority to give, I think, the middle term, we call it the presumptive term, 5 years in prison. So again, not undercutting that these are serious offenses, but first-time offenders, these kinds of white-collar offenses, as we call them, probably not, prison isn't on the table.
All right, Hector, thank you so much.